America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next item on the agenda is roll call, and we have a new committee member up here, Mike Swan. Welcome to the committee, Mike. All are present. Next thing is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're gonna start into the public hearing now on the 2017 wind ordinance. We're gonna have a public comment at the beginning of this, and all your comments need to be directed about the 2017 ordinance. If it strays from that, I'll stop you and redirect you. We have a public comment at the end of our regular meeting that will be right after this. Any other comment can be taken at that time. So, having said that, the public hearing is open, and we'll start public comment. Just like always, you have 3 minutes to speak. Anyone want to start? No public comment? Way in the back.
Robert Scott, City Township. Just want to clarify, or maybe get clarification on one particular topic. This is an email I actually sent to Ron Reddick. I thought it might be here tonight. I don't know whether you shared it with Paul or not, but this is the issue I raised with Ron. This is what I wrote. It says, you have stated at recent Douglas Township meetings that the so-called supplemental wind ordinance will give the citizens of Douglas Township the opportunity to referendum the 2017 wind ordinance, a right that they were deprived of in 2017 due to the township's failure to publish the notice of adoption. You seem to be saying that a successful referendum of the supplemental wind ordinance will also serve to rescind the 2017 wind ordinance. And in fact, the final version of the supplemental wind ordinance, as adopted by the township, includes the following provision that purports to allow just that. This is what it reads: that if this supplemental ordinance fails to take effect because of a successful referendum thereon, then the provisions of the 2017 ordinance shall also be deemed to have been successfully rejected by referendum and otherwise repealed, and shall be of no further effect. Perhaps I'm missing something, but I don't see how this result is possible. If the supplemental wind ordinance fails to take effect, whether due to a successful referendum or due to being rescinded by the township board before the referendum election occurs, no provision of the supplemental ordinance will become effective, including the above provision. I would appreciate, and I asked Ron I would appreciate clarification of that issue. I've not heard from Ron, maybe some of you have heard from Ron, but there's no way in the world that the supplemental ordinance can knock out the 2017 ordinance. That's why it's very important tonight that you folks recommend the repeal of the 2017 ordinance to the board. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yep.
Cindy Schick, 1351 West Bridge Road, Wisconsin. Back almost a year ago, we were comparing ordinances to the 2017. At that time, we did not know that it had not been properly approved. But we knew there were problems. Ron Reddick stated that there were problems. Some of them are the permit cost. They're only for a simple permit, nothing that truly invests the person or protects the township for the cost that it will take to approve that permit. Environmental assessment only says to minimize noise and sight. Has nothing in it for attorney fees and court costs if we should get in litigation because of complaints or because of damage done while they've been installed or whatever. Economic impact, there was no requirement for any applicant to tell us what the true economic impact will be. Insurance, the only thing we had was an insurance policy to cover installation and operation, and the amount in 2017 is even conditional. There was no requirement for an unredacted copy of the manufacturer's safety manual, no provision for repair of road damage. They can do all the damage they want to the road installing something, and 2017 allows for it. There is nothing to really ensure the cost of decommissioning. If they die out and the company walks away, they stand till they fall. We have no teeth to go after them. There is no complaint resolution within the 2017. Shadow flicker, all it says is that we could request an analysis, but it doesn't say anything about how. Has nothing for ice, fire, and voltage concerns, nothing for post-construction and compliance testing. Communication interference only mentions radio and TV, where we all survive with our phones now, and no resolution. So the 2017 ordinance is gross negligence. It was on our part, and I take that part as a member at that time of the planning commission. We didn't know what we were doing. We know a whole lot more now. You need to end the 2017 ordinance to protect this township.
Anyone else?
This doesn't have to do with it, but the date on this is wrong. It's the 27th, I believe. I would hope that you guys would repeal it. I appreciate Becky bringing this up last meeting. You gotta protect the township. That's what you guys are hired to do, is to represent all the community to keep us safe. And Terry has even said it's a poor ordinance, that it needs to be taken care of. We need to get it off the books and repeal it. Thank you.
And I'm so sorry I'm having a brain fart. What's your name again?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Linda Reynolds.
I would know by now, you would think. I'm so sorry, Linda. It's been a long week.
Anyone else?
It's only Wednesday.
Anything else?
It's been a long week.
Yeah, way in the back.
No, but yeah, what do you?
I think there's been a lot, K-Scott City Township, I think there's been a lot of confusion. I ask for your help. All I want you to do is hold that up. I think there's, wait a minute, I gave you the wrong one. Is it 2017? Does it say at the top? Yep, I'll leave that one. All right, I'd like to do just a little demonstration, because I think there's been a lot of confusion about what this is and what's happening here. We have the new ordinance. Petitions are going out to referendum the new ordinance. We have the 2017 ordinance. Do you guys want to come up? All right, which one do you have? All right, and we have the supplemental ordinance. The supplemental and the new ordinances are being referendum, and we assume will go to whenever the next election is, will be voted on. Those two go away if that's all successful in our eyes. And then we have the 2017 ordinance. In the supplemental ordinance, Ron has pointed out that there is a provision that if the supplemental ordinance goes away, there's a provision in the supplemental ordinance that says, as my husband just read, that even if this is referendum, the 2017 ordinance will be repealed. New ordinance, let's just assume that the referendum is successful, the election is successful. Please just walk to the back of the room. That goes away in that case. The supplemental ordinance, in its entirety, without any pages coming out, with any provisions within this, everything everything that's in this, including what Ron said, that if this is referendumed, this is repealed, 2017, that provision that's in there, walk away, that provision goes away with the referendum and the election. So what's left is 2017. It still stands. It needs to
Time's
be repealed.
Anyone else?
Let me just say it too.
State your name.
Rick Harris, Douglas Township. What they're trying to say is, we don't believe that what this second supplemental ordinance purports to do, and that is to, if it's referendum, to rescind the 2017 ordinance, we don't believe that works. Bob has asked Ron to answer it, he hasn't, he's not here to answer it. We don't believe it works, even though it says that's what's gonna happen. Because if we referendum that supplemental ordinance, it is gone, it's invalidated, and nothing in that ordinance can take effect to negate the 2017 ordinance. At least we haven't heard anything from Ron to say they could. There's no excuse not to get rid of that 2017 ordinance, based upon everything that was said earlier.
Anyone else on the 2017? All right, yeah, go ahead.
Randy Bunting, Douglas Township. So like everybody said, the 2017 is absolute crap. The board has said it's bad. They even put a new one in that they rescinded, and then they've been working on this new one. It's just altogether bad. And what Cindy said is gross negligence to not just take it off the books. So please do your job for the health, safety, and welfare. Just get rid of that. If you believe in the new ordinance that just went through, that can go to the ballot, and we'll see what happens with the vote. But just get the 2017 one gone, please.
Anyone else on the 2017 public hearing, public comment? All right, we're gonna close it then. We're gonna debate now amongst the committee up here on what we wanna do with that. Thank you, Mr. Olson. What's your feeling?
I mean, if there was questions, I don't think.
None
None of us were.
None of us got it.
They won't use them.
So one of the things that just came up was a request had gone to the township attorney. No one on this panel was copied on any request, and I think Ron has told all of us numerous times that he'll only address things that come from us. So by not including anyone on this panel in any request, we have no way to follow through to get answers that you seek. So I'm not sure who you copied, but I don't believe it was anybody on this commission.
And I don't think Ron will respond.
Ron will not respond to anybody outside the,
Township officials.
yeah,
Well,
so,
I'm sorry, with the common courtesy, we're gonna forward it to one of you, or to let me know that. Now, to respect another attorney, you should have done that.
Okay. We're talking up here amongst the committee. Any other comments, questions?
I believe that we need to make the recommendation to rescind it. I think everyone knows that it's not for the best of the township as it's currently drafted.
I'd make the motion to rescind it.
There's support.
Support. I support us making the recommendation for the board to rescind.
Is there any other debate? We'll do a roll call vote. Baldwin?
Yes.
Souls?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Alvo? Yes. Swan?
Yes.
All yes. Motion carries. We will recommend to the board to rescind the 2017 ordinance. Having said that, we are closing the public hearing, and now we're into our regular quarterly meeting now. Paul, you can join us back up here if you would. First thing on the agenda is the minutes from our May meeting.
I would like to make a motion. One, I wanna thank our secretary for getting them out so promptly. They came out in a matter of hours almost. We've all had over a month and a half to review them. I believe we should file them for audit.
I'll second it. Moved and seconded to place the minutes on file as printed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Old business, the master plan, I think Paul, I'm gonna turn that over to you.
All right. Well, I think, most, if not all of you, well, we've got new members, so maybe not all of you are aware, but, the State Planning Enabling Act requires that the township review the master plan every 5 years. All it says is you have to review it. It doesn't require that you update it, doesn't require a new plan, but the whole idea is that in most communities, things will change over time, and historically, one of the problems with master plans has been they get adopted and they sit on a shelf and people forget about them, and 20 years later, somebody says, oh, we better update the master plan. So the idea behind the review is to at least require that the planning commission take a look at it, either affirm that it's still valid or identify things that should be changed, or decide that things are so different now that than they were 5 or 6 years ago that a new plan is warranted. So that's what the review is all about. I've gone through the master plan. I've given you all a list of my comments. And I guess unless you prefer something.
You have another one?
No, I don't. I gave them to Rhonda. I thought she sent
Did you
them
check
out
your
to me.
mailbox?
Oh, I didn't go out there.
That's okay, I can share with Tammy for now.
Cops late. People in shot.
Grab it. Right there's the door.
The 5-year review comments are on, look like this. They're not the memo that some of you are looking at. So unless the chairman prefers we do it differently, I'll just go through my comments.
That's fine, go ahead.
Okay, so beginning on page 5 through 13, the master plan chapter is a community profile. This period that we're in right now is 2 years after a new census was taken. And the demographic information that's in the current plan is based on 2010 census and maybe some inter-census estimates. So many communities, if for no other reason, are updating their plan just to look at new data to see what's changed. Has the population increased? Has it, have they lost population? Have there been no changes? What does the age profile look like? What are housing costs look like, and so on. So that's one that I think, given the availability of new data, it would make sense to, if nothing else, to at least go back and update some of the demographic information. On page 14, there's a description of existing land use. And as I looked at map number 1, the existing land use map, I'm a land use planner. So when I look at that map and see all that yellow, that tells me that this is a residential community that is largely developed, and that isn't the case. What appears to happen is wherever there was a parcel, no matter what the size of that parcel, if there's a house on it, it's classified as residential. Well, realistically, if you've got 40 acres with a house on a piece of that land, that doesn't mean you've got 40 acres of residential in the township. And especially knowing now, we've got less than 3,000 people living here. We have farmland, we have a lot of woodland, we have a lot of wetland. That existing land use map really presents a misconception of development patterns in the township. So that's one area that I would suggest be revised. Page 15, where we talk about existing residential land use. It says, while certain areas of the township are zoned MDR, multifamily dwellings and mobile home parks do not currently exist in the township. So my question is this still true? Do we have any multifamily or mobile home parks in the township? And looking at the map, there are 3 large areas zoned medium density residential. And my question is, if we don't have any of those uses, why do we have so many areas zoned for it? It's not to say we shouldn't have some, but maybe we need to narrow that a bit and focus on one area that's most suitable for that kind of development and not allow it in other areas.
Previous planner was the one that had us set that up. Larry.
I think that
Was
was Larry, yeah, Larry. But I think, the main reason why we did that was when the, mobile home park or the park right there in Lakeview behind the mobile was hot, heavy, and it was getting big then. I think that's why we put that in then.
We were
And
instructed
if
to.
there's good reason for it, you know, I'm coming in new, so I'm looking at the plan with fresh eyes, and I'm saying as a planner, I'm questioning some things. If there was a good rationale for it, then okay, great, but a lot of these things, I think, merit discussion to see if it's still valid. Then under commercial, page 15 says there's an area zoned for general business. An area zoned for general business exists just north of and adjacent to the city of Stanton on the west side of M66. However, only one commercial use, an auto parts supply store, currently exists in this area. So again, my comment is, number one, does the township really need 2 different commercial designations? You've got a neighborhood and a general commercial. For a community this size with this population, that seems to me, again, as a planner, overkill. So I think that's something to consider. And then you've got, if you look at the zoning map, you have multiple areas zoned for commercial, one category or another, but apparently not much, if any, commercial development. So again, is there a reason for it? Is it appropriate to take a look and maybe pull some of that back? Maybe even just have one commercial land use designation instead of 2? Then page 16 on the industrial. The plan says, while the township zoning ordinance includes the I industrial district, no lands are zoned for industrial land use within the township. That's a problem from a zoning standpoint, from a legal standpoint. You provided an industrial district in the zoning ordinance, but you don't show any place for it on the future land use map. And if an applicant were to come in and apply for industrial zoning, you really have no basis to make a decision. Well, there's nothing you can point to on the future land use map and say, yeah, that's where we want our industrial. Conversely, if you denied the industrial rezoning, that individual could have a pretty strong case against the township because the plan didn't provide any guidance. In fact, the plan goes on to say that, I forget the exact quote, I didn't write it down, but essentially the plan says we'll know it when we see it. You know, we'll wait until we've got a request and then we'll decide if that's appropriate or not. But that's not plain. My question is, we don't need to answer all these tonight, but does the township even need an industrial district? You know, I look at the lack of public water and sewer, the lack of good highway access. The township is dotted with wetlands. Are there really places in this community that would be suitable for industrial development?
Basically, something like that would have to be done on the city of Stanton, connected to the infrastructure.
Right. And
Well, unless it's warehouse as industrial use and it's, you know, you can have a large warehouse space hauling and storing materials that only has 4 or 5 employees and they don't need necessarily water, sewer, and all of those things.
the problem with that is the industrial district allows more than a warehouse to have
Exactly.
4 or 5 people. And under zoning law, you can't say we're only gonna allow this type of industrial, but not this type in the same district. I mean, we can write a district that's a little more restrictive, but we can't be so restrictive that we're narrowing it down to one innocuous use. And on page 16, the recreational category, the township does not own or operate any recreational facilities. Is that still true? I assume so, but that's something we need to confirm. Likewise, on page 20, under fire and safety, the plan says protection is provided to the township by the city of Stanton Community Fire Department.
I think
That's
that's
still
incorrect.
correct?
I think that's
incorrect.
incorrect.
I
We've
think
got
there's
day,
there's 3 different, Belvedere,
Day and Stanton.
and Stanton.
Then under page 20, under water and wastewater, no public or private sewer or water systems exist within the township. That's, to me, that's a little misleading because it says no public or private. Private, to me, is septic system or community water system. How is the residential development around the lakes serviced? Are all of those individual septic and well?
There at this time,
Yeah.
but it has been brought up to put in sewer out there.
Yeah.
There are private companies that do that, so I think maybe that's what it was maybe not like the city of Stanton, but there could be, you know, some cities provide their own electric and some use consumer energy type thing, so
Yeah.
maybe that was the
But
intent.
the term private typically means septic and well. It may also mean a community water system that's privately owned.
Right.
But I question that word.
My
Then-
question is, where we're bordering Stanton, would Stanton extend their water and sewer outside the city limits for a fee? Or are they gonna stop at the city limits? So we're right up to the city, which does
Right.
have water and sewer, so the question
Yeah,
is,
if you were gonna allow industrial development or multifamily development, that would be the place for it, next to the city. But every city has their own policy about whether they'll extend outside the city
or
boundaries
if
or
they're gonna
not.
require
Some require
annexation.
annexation if they do it and so on, so that's something we'd wanna check into. Page 21, transportation, that section includes a lot of traffic counts for township roads. We'd wanna look and update those. My guess is they haven't changed a lot, but, we'd at least wanna take a look at them. Page 23, there's a recommendation, regarding sidewalks and non-motorized paths. My comment is, have any of these recommendations be acted on, and are they still relevant?
There was talk of doing a path along 522 to tie in the lakes to the Heartland Trail. But that was never, we had to have, if I'm remembering right, we had to have a recreational provision.
Recreation plan.
Yes, which we did not have, and there wasn't, other than myself biking on it, there wasn't, didn't seem to be any interest in extending that.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to, in order to get a state recreation grant, the community has to have an up-to-date Parks and Recreation plan. And the plan lays out existing facilities, needs based on population, goals, and an action plan for getting things done. And that's all required is just to be eligible for that recreation grant. And there's no guarantee you can. Okay, then under pages 24 and 27 are the goals and policies. Again, I think at a minimum, in most communities, when they do their 5-year review, they go back and take a look at those goals. Are they still valid? Have we accomplished any? Are they still relevant? Are we working on any of them? Some of the goals I looked at were frankly not even goals, they're more like recommendations for doing things, but those aren't goals. Then pages 25 and 26 is a provision that says, through site plan review, ensure that commercial development along major thoroughfares such as M66 are designed with consideration to traffic and pedestrian safety, require shared driveways and/or connecting parking areas to minimize curb cuts onto the roadway. My comment is that policy should be reevaluated. Number one is there any pedestrian activity along that stretch of M66? I mean, it's a state highway.
They took the paved path lane off of it. So there's people that walk on it, but there was a paved shoulder, not just the strip on the outside.